I love music, and reggaeton is something that it can be used for good or for bad, or any type of music.
Right.
And right now, when I came here, I started listening to the lyrics, and you hear the words say, "Tú eres una puta, tú eres una perra," which means you're a bitch or you're a
Right.
whore. You're perra is like term for uh,
Yeah.
female dog in
Mhm.
heat. But
Okay.
and then you see the women sing to that. They are just agreeing with those words. They are
Yeah.
agreeing with the frequency, and so it's easier for them to act upon the frequency. And then that's I believe like why prostitution is such a huge problem is because that music is creating a resonance in the community, in the girls, in the females, and they are just reacting to a frequency.
More important even than the psychedelic experience. Individually, we have to reclaim the primacy of direct experience. As people, the real universe is within your reach, always.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the show. I'm Eric Osborne, if you don't know me, and I'm not your guru. Maybe Jose Rodriguez can be, though, huh? He's the guest on this show. I don't think he wants to be your guru either, but I suspect he would like to help as many people as he can find their most authentic self, find their joy, find their passion, and live it out. Jose was a wonderful conversationalist. It's been a long time getting this episode out, so I'm really excited to share it with you. I do hope you enjoy it, and I hope you check out his work. I'll have links to his socials in the show notes, and I'm sure he would love to hear from you if you appreciate this conversation. Till then, I'll see you on the other side of the mushroom. Oh, for sure, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you smoke a blunt, I don't care. Are you a cannabis user?
Not so much.
Oh,
No, I think I learned that with the medicine, like I have to do it either when I'm doing art or when I'm gonna be by myself. Because if I smoke a little bit with other people, I don't relate well with people. I kind of like go away. I don't listen to them fully. So
yeah. That's kind of the nature of that medicine, I think, at times.
yeah. How about
Anyway,
you?
well, me, yeah, I probably honestly use cannabis more than I should. I've been consuming edibles though. Um, I I have four beautiful plants in my backyard right now
Mm,
that are just fucking gorgeous, and so yeah, I've had a interesting relationship with cannabis over the years, and it's actually my relationship with cannabis. I'm so glad we're talking about this because this is one of the first relationships that was really impacted by me deciding to change my mind, right?
mm,
This so a lot of what we're talking about today is going to be this kind of um, working with our own minds, working with our own perspectives of reality. And as I kind of understand it these days, everything is based on our perspective
mm,
of
mm, mm.
ourself in this perspective reality. So, Jose, before we get too far along in the conversation, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. Uh, Tell our audience just a little bit about yourself. Why are you here not being our guru?
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me today. Super excited to share and to listen and to learn. So, a little bit about me. Why am I here? Well, I was born and raised in Colombia. I was there for 11 years, and then I moved to the States, not by my choice. It was just what life had for me, and moved to New Jersey, went to the military when I was 19, got out when I was 24. And that transition was another transition that was really hard for me. Getting out of the military, a lot of people had expectations from me to be in the police force, and That's not who I wanted to be. And so I decided to go to college to study business. But in that time, it wasn't aligned with myself either. So I ended up going to massage therapy school. I did it for a whole year. And then I went into the workforce working for a chiropractor, but it was not aligned with myself. It was seeing 8 to 9 clients a day, super fast. I wasn't able to connect with the people, so it started taking a toll on me. I was still lost. I was still confused, and that's where I started asking, like, okay, I need to find some type of medicine. I need to find something that can help me. I went to New York City. I looked for mushrooms. I was looking for mushrooms, and then I found somebody who's a really good friend of mine now, and he was selling mushrooms, but he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go up to the mountain, upstate New York. Would you want to come?" And that for me was a blessing. He was the one that opened me up to how to hold respect for this medicine and what this medicine can do for you when you put the right intentions that set and set, and it just changed my mind completely. Um, and then I think a few weeks later, he was going to Ecuador to do ayahuasca, and then he asked me, it's like, "Hey, would you want to come and join me?" And I said, "Yeah." I always felt that moment like somebody took a bucket of water, a cold one, and just like pour it over me. I quit my job. I left, and I was there for 2 months. And I think when you go into a state where you're doing such deep work, coming back, you can't come back to the same life. So I fell in love with scuba diving, and I moved to Hawaii, and then I became a scuba diver. Um, that's a little bit about me. So I don't know if you want me to continue or.
Well, first of all, I just want to point out to the audience the interesting synchronicity here, because when I reached out to Jose to be on the podcast, I had no idea that you were involved with psychedelic work whatsoever. And when we had the call yesterday, we were both like, "Oh my God, this is crazy!" You know how things were lining up there, and so it's really beautiful to hear how the medicine has impacted your life, and we'll talk more about that. I guess how do you describe the work that you do now? Are you still like majoritively a scuba diver instructor, or kind of around the mindset coaching? How do you
Mhm.
describe your work now?
Oh my goodness. So I'm in a transition point right now. So I live in the States right now. I'm a full-time massage therapist.
Okay.
But I'm also starting my own business when it comes to psychedelic preparation and integration coaching.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm moving away. I'm moving away because where I am right now is not allowing me to go where I need to go. So I'm going to be going to Colombia, where I'm going to be doing full time in my business when it comes to psychedelic, again, preparation and integration, which is where my heart is. And that type of work for me, it's incredible and it's powerful because it's something that I needed when I was experiencing with psilocybin, or when I was going to Ecuador to do medicine work and coming back to the States, where my family didn't understand me at all. And my friends didn't understand me at all. I didn't understand myself at all either. So I didn't have anybody to be there except for my friend. Um, but I still felt alone. So that's something that I'm bringing into this community because I see the need for it.
Hmm. Hmm. So I reached out specifically because I was looking for uh, coaches, support people who were talking about this idea of manifestation, right?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
the the ability to alter our reality drastically
Mm.
is something that psychedelics opened up to me many years ago.
Hmm.
It was only after coming back from Jamaica and all the work down there that I started to get into mindset coaching, listening to the likes of Bob Proctor, who else? Florence Scovel Shinn's one of the early books I read. Of course, I got all kinds of books I could point to on here. But anyway, a lot of those teachers, and as I was alluding to with cannabis, I have a much healthier relationship with cannabis now than I did in the past. In the past, I was like, I just like Snoop Dogg was my hero, right? It's all day, every day. Me, Bob Marley, and Snoop. And it was detrimental. There was no doubt that it negatively impacted my life, and yet I could not get away from it. I would mushrooms would tell me to quit smoking, and I would just like I would just
Mm,
continue to try to stop, try to stop, try to stop, and I couldn't. And then when I started listening to, I know what it was. It was Psycho-Cybernetics. Are you familiar with that book?
I'm not. No.
Got to read it. Maxwell Maltz. It's one of the most incredible books around this idea of completely changing your life. I recommend it all the time. And what it talks about is basically that everything we are is this identity construct. And if we start to change our identity, then
Yes.
our behaviors and habits will change. And
Yes.
it was amazing. I mean, I'm talking, Jose, I'm talking years that I tried to quit or slow down my cannabis use, and it wouldn't happen. And when I started to tell myself, I would look in the mirror and I
Mm,
told myself just a couple of times, I started out saying, I only smoke weed at night, right? I'm the kind of person that only smokes weed at night. And the next day I got up and smoked some weed. I was like, what am I doing? I only smoke weed at night. And then the next day I got up and I just didn't even think about it. I didn't even smoke any weed. And then at night I smoked some weed. I was like, holy shit.
mm,
I am literally reprogramming my mind like
yeah.
that. And so then I was like, I did that for a few days. I'm like, I'm the kind of, I only smoke weed on the weekends. And lo and behold, I only
Mm,
started. And so it was like amazing to me how quickly my life changed and how that impacted other aspects of my life. So I would love to hear you talk about your experiences, your
mhm,
knowledge with this idea of manifestation, becoming a new person, changing our world.
mhm. Oh man, you're touching on something that I am doing now during my time. So anytime that I would go to a different country or a different state, I always felt like each place has its own energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And depending where you go and what you need, that place kind of like creates the change for you.
Hmm.
Right now, I used to have long hair, for example. It used to be down to my chest. And I had that for about 5, 6 years. And about 2 months ago, I decided that I needed to cut my hair because part of what you mentioned, my identity that needs to change is getting a haircut, is letting go of the things that no longer serve me. So part of that is literally changing my physical aspect, the way I do my beard, the way I did my hair, feeling does that feel aligned with myself? Because when it does, then the steps that I need to take for the person that I want to become are easier.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me moving away from Vermont to where I'm going to be going to Colombia is I need to change my environment. I need to change where I sleep. I need to change the way I look, how I dress. And again, looking myself in the mirror and be like, is this person aligned with me? How
Mm-hmm.
does it feel me looking at this person? If it's that fuck yes, then okay, now I know what I need to do to keep going. Um, so part of manifestation, another thing that I've been doing lately is before going to bed, is telling myself tomorrow is going to be a great day. Even
Mm-hmm.
if I have a long day of work and I know that, but instead of me going to bed like, oh, tomorrow is gonna be so long, instead of me telling myself that, I noticed, and I was doing that with my partner. We both be like, tomorrow is going to be a great day, and we repeat it over and over again before going to
Mm-hmm.
bed. It can be for 5 minutes. We both wake up and be like, today is gonna be a great day. Today is a great day. And just that, like, even I feel it right now. I'm like, yes, today is a great day. And from there, your day completely changes. You can have a long day of work, and that's okay. But your state of being, your frequency is completely different. You can be more aware. You can be like, you can find something that brings you joy, that brings you peace, that brings you into like the present moment. And that for me has been something so simple but so powerful. And another thing is like now being here in Colombia, there is a lot of doors that are opening. One of them is I met this friend. She works with they're called códigos sagrados, which is sacred codes. I don't know if you heard of them.
I have, yeah.
Okay, that's my first time hearing about them. And the way she explained them is like when you call 911 for an emergency, the police come. It's like their numbers are infinite. Those numbers, we have certain numbers that we can call to God, to Creator, to the universe, angels, and then they can come and support you in what you're needing. Different codes call for different energy. And I started using it for 3 days now. And things have been coming into my life in a very magical way. You, Eric,
Maybe.
you, well, yeah, you reached out to me and I was like, okay, okay. I'm just taking this signs as a way of being like, yeah, we are supporting you. We are here to support you along. So just meeting people like yourself, meeting people here in Colombia, here, like I met this incredible woman here too that does Reiki and life changing for me. The people that are meeting here. So things like that. And you mentioned it always goes back to just changing our perspective, changing the way we talk to ourselves. They said that we think 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are questions. So I always say that our life is just answers to our questions. And if we start paying attention to the questions that we have and that we are asking ourselves and God, we can start changing our lives as well. So having a little notebook or something and be like, and being aware of the thoughts and be like, oh, I'm asking myself this question. And then asking yourself, is this the best question that I can ask myself? Or can I alter that question to serve me where I need to go? So yeah, it's been a journey.
So a couple of things you're hitting on there. First of all, I want to say that you also after our conversation yesterday, I said to my wife Courtney that it's becoming apparent to me that the name change and the redirection of the podcast was the smart thing. It was the right thing because you and a couple of other people have been just like synchronistically lined up in ways I'm like, there's something going on behind the scenes here. And like I have this idea. It kind of occurred to me the other day as I was realizing that we humans are the answers to each other's prayers, and how beautiful it is to like someone else can be the answer to our prayer, and we get to be the answer to someone else's prayer. And that's just such a beautiful thought for me. But I want to go back, if you could. Why right before you go to sleep are you telling yourself it's going to be a good day tomorrow? Are you specifically focused on that period of time for a reason, I should ask?
Yes. I believe that the beginning of something is what we remember, and the end of something is what we remember. The in between is kind of like a blur. And that comes with reading, that comes with learning. So then for me, I was like, okay, if that's the way I can learn more, is doing 25 to 30-minute study sessions, taking a break and doing the same thing. It's the same thing with when we wake up and we will go to bed. The things that we remember the most consciously and unconsciously are what we do when we first wake up. It's so important because it sets the stage for the day. And what we do before going to bed, it's so important because it's going to set is the communication that happens subconsciously when we go to bed, the dream world, what we say, what we tell ourselves, what we feed our mind. It, again, is setting the stage for the next morning. So what I watch before going to bed is so important. Even if I watch something, it can be reading, it can be watching TV, it can be listening to music, or changing it and being like, okay, I'm gonna pray, or I'm gonna say something good to myself. Waking up, not touching my phone. I have an alarm with my phone, but I touch it and I put it away. and then I go into meditation. So I do believe that what we say to ourselves before going to bed is going to feed our subconscious mind, which is going to play out throughout the night when we go to bed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you familiar by any chance with Joseph Rodriguez? He's
No,
a he is
completely.
he is one of my favorite YouTube kind of personal development coaches. This guy has been, I don't even know, I think since like 2009, he's been doing 2 videos a week where he'll break down like Neville Goddard or the psycho-cybernetics or Joseph Murphy or any of these kind of mindset manifestation teachers,
Mhm.
and that practice of pre-loading the subconscious before going to sleep. You know, many folks have taught that, and he's one of them. But I always like to plug his work because he is just like he just sticks with it, and he's
Mm.
very systematic in how he describes these processes. And I've been wanting to call you Joseph ever since. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Like my favorite teacher, and his name is so close. So, what are the practices though? Like there are so many ways that we can engage the subconscious, and then maybe
Mm.
if you could also talk about how you understand the subconscious impacting all of these conscious aspects of our lives.
Mm. Yes. So I'll start with the what practices
Mm-hmm.
that I do and that I share. Um, when I was in Mexico last year with my partner, we were both going through something as individuals, not as a
Mm-hmm.
couple. And what we did is we took out a notebook, we took out a pen, and we always have voices, mean voices that are kind of surrounding us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay, what is this voice saying? Or it can be an emotion. Draw that emotion or draw that voice. And just there is no shape or form, just let it go.
Okay.
And watch what it appears. For me, it came out like a blob with weird looking blob. And then you give it a name. And then
Okay.
something they
But there's a whole bunch of background noise.
hold on. So I'm in Colombia. Should I
Yeah.
put it on mute for now?
What do you got?
It's some street vendor.
Oh, yeah. It is what it is, man. Let's roll with it. It's all good.
Okay. So yeah, here in Colombia, you're gonna hear street
Yeah.
vendors. You're gonna hear.
Jamaica had, I forget what they called them. What the fuck did they call it? Damn. They would have a like a little car would drive through town that would have just massive fucking speakers on top. Yo, just Friday, Friday, Friday. Yeah, man, that's
Yes, yeah,
what.
you hear that here all the time. Or you hear like the chivas, which are like these big trucks open where they have like like a party bus, but without doors or windows, just in the open. So
Gotcha.
if you hear
All right.
noises,
So the blob. Back to the blob.
back to the block. Yeah, and when you give it a name and you see it, then you can stand in front of you. You can use a mirror, or you can just stand in front of yourself in a way like I'm here. And then I just let this blob say what it needs to say.
Hmm.
So if I don't have a mirror, I'm here and I'm talking. I'm letting this blob say, "You are this. You are this. You're not capable of this." All these things that it says. Then I go on the other side and I face it, and then I use facts. So if this thing is like, "You are not smart," I stay in front of it, and I'm like, "Well, I finished high school. I went to the military. I became a dive instructor," and I just actually put facts that changes that story,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the danger happens when we don't see them. That's when we don't see something, that's when it's dangerous. But when we see something and we're aware that that's happening, then we can change the conversation.
Yes.
So that's one thing that you can use that with a mirror, or you can use that again here.
So what's the value in having the physical? Because it sounds like you're actually like moving your body around the thing. Why is this happening in a physical manner as well as a mental manner?
Mm. Our body as a massage therapy, and also I study right now somatic therapy. Our body holds memory. Everything that has happened in our lives, our body holds it. So those thoughts create emotions. That emotion is expressed whether it's we hunch down or we touch our head or face. It's our body letting us know, yes, I agree with that thought. So when we allow this blob to say things, our body's going to react. When we move away from it and face it, whether it's just space, but you see the blob and you change your posture and you tell, no, this is who I am and these are the facts.
Mm.
You're, you're starting to change that conversation with your body. And so your body also reacts to that. And something that I have learned with somatic therapy, which has been incredible, is the power of the body and the awareness that we need to have. Because we're always, a lot of times we're here, but we don't listen to what's happening here with our body. But when we just put awareness to what's happening in our body, memories can start coming up and we can start having a conversation and then we can change it.
Dude.
And I think your name to your podcast is incredible because our guru is our own body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason what we're here for is to like for experience, yes, but it's like part of it's like experience what it means to be a human.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our body. Our body is what makes us human.
Dude, so much synchronicity. Last night I was doing some weightlifting and I was doing like some overheads like this, and then
Mhm.
I went over to my left
Mm.
and I noticed I have pretty significant imbalance. And what happened is as I was doing this motion, I was taken back to my childhood, a memory out of nowhere. I grew up
Mm.
working construction, right? And so I spent hundreds of hours hammering with my right hand above my head, just like looking up at the ceiling, hammering shit, and most of the time I was pissed off at my dad for making me do it. And so when I went into this exercise, my body brought back all of these memories of childhood and allowed me to process a lot of pain and shame that
Mm.
I felt being around my father, this kind of anger. And so like what you're saying is so spot on and so timely in my experience. So like what you said about the conversations with the body, changing the conversations with the body, like I've never even heard that said, but it just like immediately like sent this kind of chill through me. I don't know. Do we want to talk a little bit more about that idea? God, I'll go off on 100 tangents here, dude,
We
if you don't push
could,
me.
yeah. Yeah, whatever it feels right.
We'll talk about that a little bit more. Tease that out. This idea of of conversations with our body.
Mhm, mhm. And I guess I can also pivot a little bit when it comes to how the medicine and how our body
Mm-hmm.
kind of like connect in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do medicine work, when we do ayahuasca, mushrooms, we anything, our body's gonna have a reaction. And when we go into a thought, our body puts us into that reaction. How we can change our conversation with our body and how the medicine shows is like, hey, this is a possibility that you can have. You're having this life, but there's also another thing. There's another life that you can have. And I always felt like, why do I feel so good? Like, why does my body feel so good after I come out of medicine? Why do I feel so aligned? And I'm like, yes. And okay. And so when we go back to our place, to our environment, to our home, and our home is also a representation of our body, how our home is set up, what we buy, what we have in our home, it represents what's happening inside of us. So the reason why it's so hard for somebody to come back to their home and change is because everything that we see holds memory and holds energy in our body. It reacts. So it's a conversation that's happening always with everything that's around us. So another thing is like I always share like if you want to change, Also change your home. You don't have to move away from your home, but change
Mm-hmm.
little things. You can literally sit down with a plate that somebody gave it to us and hold it and see how your body reacts to it. You
Mm-hmm.
can have a plant that somebody gave it to you or you bought it, hold it and see how and see what comes up and how your body reacts to that. Is it reacting positive, or is it, or your body is reacting negatively to it? And your body always tells you. And I believe that's where our intuition is it comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I always wonder like, how do I listen to my intuition? And that's something that I'm still learning. But even just speaking right now, I'm like, oh yes, my body is my intuition. My body would tell me yes or no. My body would change posture in a way that feels good, or would tell me, I don't know if this feels good. But because we don't listen to it and we're here, some of our choices are not always aligned with where we need to go. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where some lessons come in, and we have to go through them, which they're still part of what we need to go to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
And then we can also take that body and, how do I want to say it? Like communicate to our mind with the body, right? Like this
exactly.
intentional movement, or the. Have you ever heard of? Do you know Mantak Chia by any chance?
Yep.
He's an incredible Taoist Tai Chi Qigong teacher, and he has this meditation called the Inner Smile, and it's like, using not the smile in your mouth, but actually the smile in your eyes to
Mm,
impact health. And anyway, so much stuff. So like this idea of the body as kind of a transmitter, as well as the mind having similar function.
yeah, and it just reminded me of something. It's funny. It's a story. One of the times that I was in the mountain doing mushrooms with my friend, we were all in a row for whatever reason, and then my buddy just looked at us and he was like, "We are all just little mushrooms, we are all just antennas." And that's all we are. We are literally antennas, just, and you said it, picking up frequency and just emitting frequency back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we start seeing ourselves as just antennas, it's like, what frequency am I receiving? Because the
Mm-hmm.
world is kind of like showing us that. And how am I reacting to that? So, for example, when people travel to Colombia, how come some people have incredible experiences and they just receive gifts all around, and other people have a harder time here? And that's because of the frequency that we are emitting. If people come here with fear, this place will give you a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come here with respect, with humbleness, with curiosity, and treat people nice, you will receive so many gifts in this beautiful place. And that's it. That's what anywhere. I
Mm-hmm.
traveled to Mexico, Ecuador. In Mexico, people were like, "You're gonna go to Mexico? Like, isn't that dangerous?" And no, it wasn't. It's such a beautiful country, and it's because I got to know the people that live
Mm-hmm.
there. I heard their stories, and they would share with me. It's like, hey, you just don't travel at night here. You just don't go to this place. And they're like, okay, so now I know.
It's this weird balance of expectation. Like expectation sets the stage, and at the same time, expectations can prevent us from like really experiencing the moment, And that's something
Mm,
I've been playing with a lot lately, is like having this, and maybe expectations isn't the right word. I mean, perspective is certainly one way to speak of it, and And I have seen this so many times where if I go into a situation, be it a new place, like a country or a social environment or whatever it might be, my perception of how that interaction is going to take place, it might not play out just exactly, but if I expect it to suck, then odds are it's going to suck. If I expect to meet somebody, lovely there and have a great conversation, then odds are that's what's going to happen. And so, as I've been exploring personally this concept of manifestation, I originally pushed back a lot because it was often spoken of in kind of very simplistic terms. Like you don't have to do anything, you just have to, think a certain way.
Hmm.
But as I've started to explore how my subconscious impacts my perspective and how that perspective like is everything about the quality of the experience and opens up opportunities. It's not. I mean, there does seem to be some quote unquote magic or some quantum kind of
Mm.
things at play here, but also there's like a mechanics at work, that's not
Yeah.
so elusive. Do you want to talk about that? Let's get into kind of that realm, and then I would love to the extent that you're capable, kind of go deeper into this idea of vibration, resonance,
Hmm.
attraction, repulsion. So let's start with just kind of like mechanically working the subconscious and influencing out there.
Hmm. And something that you said was like, we have expectations in life and we have intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And those two are side by side, and it's a very fine line. So, for example, when people that work with me, I always share with them, okay, you have expectations of what the outcome might be, and you have intentions. When it comes to intentions, look at them, read them, but allow it to be what it needs to be. Free flow. When we have expectations, they create more space for disappointment. And why do I say that? Is because
Mm-hmm.
I learned that when I have expectations and they don't come, I feel disappointed in myself.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have intentions, they don't have it's like timeless. And so it allows the magic to happen as it needs to happen.
Hmm.
And that's something that people, when are doing, again, medicine work, I always go back to that. They have expectations of what they want of the outcome. And so I make them write their intentions. And then I always ask them days after they do their ceremonies, what happened with your intentions? And they're always like, all those intentions that I had didn't really matter during the ceremony. And in some way or another, they were answered,
Mm-hmm.
but the outcome was much more than that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because expectations are very rigid in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I want this, this, then this, and this. And that's part of like manifestation. But then we don't give room for God, which God I always say is like the silence between the noise. And there is noise everywhere. And with music, this incredible musician when I was living in Hawaii, they were playing music, and then he came up to me. He's like, the most important note that there is in music? It's like, no, it's like the silence. Because the silence, that's when God plays in.
Mm-hmm.
And I always carry that with me. And humans are so uncomfortable with silence. We have to have noise around us all the time, because when there is silence is when we can listen to ourselves, is when we can listen to creator, is when we can listen to, I believe there's angels around us. and we can listen to them. We can listen to our intuition. And that's part of why intention is so beautiful, because it creates room for that silence to play in. And to go into like the vibration of it, everything has frequency. And they like quantum physics, they will talk about like nothing is really dead. It's just a different vibration. How do people not manipulate, but how do they tap into a frequency where, for example, money just flows, or where a certain type of people just flows, and or they're able to somehow manipulate the weather, whether you people believe in that or not. I believe we have some type of magic like the avatars, where we're able to move a little bit, move things a little bit here and there, maybe a lot. And all of that is just frequency. And for me, for example, I saw my friend dance with fire. And that was the first time that I was like, oh my goodness, okay, magic does exist and we are able to connect to an element.
Mm-hmm.
And he always said, like, you don't control it. You ask permission, and then you raise or you change your frequency to the frequency of that element. I was like, oh, and money has its own frequency. Everything has its own frequency. So if I want something in my life, I need to understand what that frequency is, connect to that frequency, and not become it, but yes, become it, and allow it to flow. It's always about flow. It's not about holding.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything. I always say everything is water. Humans are mostly water, and everything has molecules. But if you go deeper and deeper and deeper, it's just space. You know what I mean? And so if I try to hold on to something, I'm not gonna allow the flow to come in and to come out.
How do we identify those frequencies? Like I mean, it's maybe impossible to put into words, right?
Mhm.
Fire has long been my friend. Lot longer than mushrooms. I've been working with fire, as the mushrooms have shown me, and it was a natural kind of frequency that I just would attune to,
Mm.
and I don't know that I have a real good handle on or way to describe like lining up with those frequencies. Can you
Mhm.
talk about that?
Yeah, and everyone has their own perspective, and I believe there's no right or wrong way of doing this. Again,
That
there's
not your guru, not your.
yeah, and just there's an intention.
Hmm.
And I always say it always comes down to your intention. If my intention is to understand the frequency of love or the frequency of money, the frequency of fire, I have to create a relationship with it. It's always about creating a relationship with what you are trying to bring into your life.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we do that? I think that for me, it's like that's the beginning of everything. I want to create a relationship with money. Okay, how do I create this relationship where I have to do the work to understand how my body reacts to the money? For example, as a childhood, my childhood was money was seen as evil. So my body was like, okay, money is evil. And because my values don't align with that, or are like, oh, this is bad, like I don't want it. We all have our little demons in us, and that's okay. But I try not to be with things that are like, "Mm, that's bad."
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do a lot of work, and that I'm still doing that work right now of being like, how did my family relates to money? How did I grow up as a child, and how did I see money back then? Because my body remembers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, hold and behold, like I used to have a relationship with money where I saw money as evil because I saw bad people doing bad things with money. And I was like, and that just started changing. It's like, wait, good people have money. There's a lot of good things that we can do. And I like anytime that I meet somebody that's good and they have a relationship with money that's like, I don't like money. I was like, okay, money's energy. We need people like you. And then you don't have to be filthy rich, but we need people like you to welcome money into your life so you can bless other people. Because this world has too many greedy people with huge amounts of money. And we need good people with good money because we can do a lot of good things in this world. At the end of the day, this world is run in a way by money. And so we need to embrace that energy to support the work and the organizations that are doing good things in this world. So for me, with money, again, I started changing that relationship where I am content, I am healthy, my values are strong, my foundation's strong. Can I now welcome this frequency, this energy into my life? Yes. And I always pray and I always ask support to not be carried away into a place where I forget who I am. And I need to always be aligned with myself. And I think that's why I need to go into the spiritual work and to go into a place where money was not in my life at all. Because I needed to know what it means to connect to the earth. I needed to know what it means to grow food, to know how to tend to the plants, to know how to tend to myself, to know how to love somebody not for money, but for their being. And that is my foundation. And so now I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, what can I do with money that will come into my life? And how do I respect money? How do I respect money? For me, it's like I get money. What do I do with this money? Do I spend it in things that, for example, here in Colombia, there is, imagine at least, there's a huge problem with prostitution. Am I going to support that? Because that's my energy. Money is my time. My time is my energy. Am I going to support that? Or am I going to support the local people that are creating incredible businesses or or the people that are selling food outside? It's like, is that more aligned with myself? Am I supporting the people that are working hard to be like, I bless you and I bless myself, and then this person's gonna go bless their family. And that's something that my cousin said to me. It's like, before you give money to somebody, you say, I bless your money and I bless my money. And that for me starts changing the relationship with money. It's like, it is a blessing. It is a blessing to receive in any way or form, and it's a blessing to give. And so when I start changing the way I relate to money, the frequency starts changing. And it can be with anything. It can be with, for example, people with mushrooms. They think mushrooms as a party drug. Talk to me. You have a question?
Well, I'm just curious, like, because the original question was thinking in terms of frequency of the outward thing that we're looking to experience, and love, money, fire, whatever it is. And as you're talking, and I'm hearing the truth in what you're saying, particularly around how the body relates to whatever that external experience is. And when we change the body, we open up and things flow. And it just has me wondering if like, is it really about kind of identifying the quote frequency of the thing or experience outside of us, or is it,
Mm,
or is it like using love as a bridge to whatever that is? But then,
yes,
but that's tricky because at the same time, the things that you hate, if you focus on them, they will also appear in your life, right?
absolutely. And that comes with people having fear of spiders or animals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is this beautiful exercise that a lot of people do, which is like, okay, think about color red and close your eyes and think about color red. Think about color red. Think about color red. Open your eyes. Now look around. You'll see red.
All kinds of red
Great.
stuff.
Yes. And so life, in a way, is meaningless. And when I said it's like we are here to give meaning to life.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen to us, whether we give that experience a good meaning or a bad meaning is up to us.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the things that we hate, that's a frequency that we are like, I hate this, I don't want it. But somehow it does come. For example, I used to be terrified of the ocean. I grew up in a little mountain town in Colombia. It's called Ibagué. And so I didn't see the ocean until I was like 10. And when I went to Cartagena, it was just like, it was rough. I couldn't see the bottom of it. I was like, are sharks going to come and eat me? So I always used to have that fear of it. But when I went to Ecuador and I did my medicine work, and then me and my buddy started traveling, we hired these two fishermen on the coast. We hired these two fishermen to take us out because they had a wetsuit, but they were fishing. And we're like, okay, so we hire them. We start going out, out, out. And somehow we had the great idea of smoking a little bit of weed. And when we smoked a little bit of weed, anxiety started coming up because I was like, that's where my safety is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where land is. And I am far away from it. And the way they fish over there, it's like they have a generator and they put a hose in their mouth, and that's all it is. And then their goggles, and then they go and they fish. That's
Whoa,
the
like
way they.
underwater spearfishing or what?
Yes, but with the hose.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I mean, it's not healthy either because they're getting the air from a generator.
Yeah.
But that's what they have to do to survive. So we went out there, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What did I just sign up for? And then somehow I go first and I'm in the water with this hose in my mouth. I'm freaking out. I feel like I'm drowning. And the fisherman just looks at me and just like shakes me and just like brings me down. And as we're going down, I'm terrified. I never done this before. They're not teaching me what to do or what not to do. Just like, here's my lifeline here. I just have to breathe. And we're going down, we're going down. We hit, I don't know, let's say 40, 50 feet. He's like, he gives me, like, there's a rock. I hold on to this rock. And he looks at me. He just goes, like, he points at me and he's like, you stay here. He's going to go up it. And he just, like, started going up. In that moment, I wanted to go after him. He's my safety too, but he's gone.
Mm.
So that's when I had the choice of either I go up and I might die because I don't know what I'm going to do, or I stay down here, hold on to this rock, and just wait. And in that moment, that's where the magic began. That
Hmm.
fear that I had disappeared completely. Huge fish
Mm.
just started coming up. And I just like, I fell in love with something that I used to be afraid
Hmm.
of.
Yeah.
And that frequency in my body changed completely. So to your saying, yes, it is inwards. It's always a conversation that we have with ourselves. And if I'm afraid of spiders, if I hate something, God is going to respond to that and be like, well, you hate this. It's a frequency that you hate. And hate is a strong frequency. Hate and love are strong.
Mm-hmm.
So if I love something, it's going to come to me. If I hate something, it's also going to come to me. And I believe that fear is just a door to a gift that is waiting for us on the other side. And after I faced that fear, I mean, I went to scuba diving and and I had incredible experiences that I would have never had if I let that fear take a hold of me. And everything is frequency. It's just energy. It's a conversation.
Mhm.
And with somatic therapy, something the way they work is they have a conversation with their body, and their body reacts to a situation that happened before. But before going to that situation, we find things that brings us happiness, that brings us joy, peace, and we help them find those feelings where they are located in the body so they can be used as anchors, so they can feel safe enough to go after what is causing them pain, what's causing them a reaction that they don't want anymore.
Mhm.
And once they have that conversation and they are able to relate to that experience different, they are able to move forward where they need to go.
Been putting a lot of thought into this lately. Um, that it really seems that most of the things that we push back against the most of the things we fear the most or hate the most, are the very things that are calling us to go through them for, just like you said, the gift that's on the other side of that door. And money has been one of the big things for me as of late. I've started to feel like maybe the reason that I have felt so strongly negatively about um, great wealth is because that's what I need to go into. That's what I need to go
Mm,
towards, you know.
mm, mm,
And because I know so much good. I mean, we have so many amazing things that we're doing with Sanctuary that are going to require so much money to help people. And politics, I've been so infuriated by the American political landscape. And in the last year, I just keep getting this little voice. You hate it so much, you need to go do it. You need to go,
mm.
you know?
Yes, yes, yes. And like people like yourself, people that are tired of the old system, that have a voice, and that little voice is here.
Hmm.
We do need you to play your part in this world. And why did God put you here and now, where there is so much chaos, where there is so
Hmm.
much pain,
Hmm.
where humans are just going through it? They, I believe that God put us in this moment to make a change, to create a change. And if you hear that voice of you hate what's happening with the politicians and what they're doing, and you see a different way, use your voice because we need to hear it. Humans need to hear it. And there's a lot of politicians that are creating like that. Politicians hold power, and there's good politicians, but there is a lot more that are corrupt and that are doing things for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
But if we start scaling and finding balance and finding harmony, there can be a change.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard the story of the monkeys? How there used to be two different islands, and it goes back to frequency. In one of the islands, the monkey used to eat potatoes, dirty potatoes, and it was like eat them. Until one monkey was like, let me go wash this potato before I eat it," and washes it. And then the monkeys in the island started doing the same thing. And now, what starts happening here in this other island is the monkeys here somehow
Hmm.
started doing the same thing.
Hmm.
All of us are connected. We're just connected through webs. So when good people, and all of us are good, even politicians that are corrupt, even the ones that are creating harm in this world, they are just reacting to a frequency that is higher than their values, their really deep values that are like good. So if a lot of good people start doing incredible projects, incredible things, if we start changing the conversation that money is evil or that politicians are evil, it'll start rippling out and more people would want to have money and use it in good ways. More people would want to go into politics and use it for good things because that is the frequency that is stronger than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to change that frequency.
Mm.
We need to change all that conversations that are happening here.
I love how you keep referring to all this as conversation, and it's interesting because the next chapter of the podcast is going to be all about communication. um and it's all a conversation, even when I'm like looking at information from the outside and I'm responding to it. I'm communicating my beliefs and my intentions with it. And like, over, you hear all these years, to take the political example again, you hear the in the conversation it is often said you have to pick the lesser of two evils. And I
Mm,
have for many years I've just thought that's the most bullshit cop out that I've ever heard. But why it's a bullshit cop out is because it is a conversation that's going nowhere. It's acquiescence.
mm,
We are communicating to whatever's out there. Well, I'll just take an evil is, I'll
mm,
just take that. And if we would start to speak differently, which again goes back to the very first thing we were talking about, in terms of our identity.
mm,
We have our individual identities and this collective identity. I keep wanting to find. I know that there is a kind of a term within evolutionary biology that describes that phenomenon that you were depicting through the story about the
mm,
monkeys, because that's a scientific reality
mm,
that
mm,
interspecies communication and learning happens at a distance as well, right? So like what you're speaking to is like it's as much about manifesting a new reality for our species as it is for our individual selves.
yes, yes, yes. And I mean, you're saying it and you're touching on it. It is, and it's hard because some people need for them to believe it, they need to see it or they need to hear it in a scientific point of view because
Mhm.
that's the way that we are like taught. Like we need to see facts, we need to see numbers, we need to see to believe. And not a lot of people believe in magic in a way because magic you can't see magic; it just happens. It's a feeling.
Mhm.
Um, but so, for example, I had a conversation with a person that I met here, and she was telling me how men are now responding to the invitation of a new identity as a male species. And that's the reason why we're starting to see more men or males change the way they relate to themselves, the way they relate to women, and the way they relate to this world.
Mhm.
Because men have caused great pain, but it's not because I don't believe we wanted to. It's because we are lost.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have always been taught that we, as men, we compete against each other a lot, which creates a lot of pain, mistrust. But when we start seeing that we can relate to a man in a way that is honorable, that I respect you and I see you and I wish you nothing but the best, and I'm here to support you and I have your back, more men can start doing that and we can start relating to us in a different way. We can start healing what we have done in this world, but we also can start caring for the women that give us life, that give life to everything in this world.
Yes. Mhm.
And so when she said that, I was like, yeah, we are responding to your call because you are tired of the way we have been treated. As a young person growing up in Colombia, machismo was it's huge. It's huge here, and it's not aligned with me anymore. That's something that I don't see it, and I don't want it in my life and in my world.
So how do you? That's a great subject to drill down on, because it's seated in the context of the culture that does still adhere to that kind of behavior, which I won't go into my stories about that, but it's relevant to this podcast and many episodes preceding this one. So when you say that it doesn't fit within your reality anymore, how do you even experience it when you're out on the street?
I do,
Okay.
because again, it comes back to the conversations that I'm having. If I'm having a conversation with another person and another male, and this person is relating to the women in a different way that I would, I have to say something. It is,
Okay.
and I don't have to correct them,
Mhm.
but it is my duty for me to use my voice to be like, hey, there is a different world. In this world, it's a possibility. But if I stay quiet, then I'm gonna start agreeing with
Damn.
this
Mm.
person that is the world that I want to live in. But
Hmm.
when I say no, that is not my world. That is not what I want in my life. Creator's like, okay, that's not, you don't want that. I will give you what you want. And then creator starts putting people in my life that are aligned with my values. And so it becomes my reality.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
because there's so many worlds happening all around us. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
how many people are in the world? Like 7 billion, 8 billion.
It's 8 billion now, 8 plus, whatever. So that's yeah.
So those are each person, it's its own little world. So
Hmm.
those are 8 different billions that are happening in this world. And I just need to be truthful with myself and use the power of my voice to walk the world that I want to walk, that I want to walk. And then creators like, okay, I'm gonna put this little world in your world, and then you guys are just gonna connect.
Talk about the power of voice. We've already touched on it a little bit, in your description of the blob and whatnot. But like, let's expand out why that is such a powerful interface that we have.
Mhm. I always go back to the conversation. We everything we hear, it's a frequency, and because we are water, that's another way that we can also manifest is having water or coffee or whatever, and telling this water, I want this. I want to be healthy. I want to feel good today. And because it's frequency, the water starts changing. And then when I drink it, it starts changing my cells into what I want to have in that day or my life. When it comes to using my voice, if I lie, is going to create a resonance in my body that is going to bring me this. It's going to bring me a little bit of shame. It's going to bring me a little bit of self-doubt. It's going to tell me, why did you do that? Why did you lie, Jose? And so I'm going to do this. When I state truth to my values and I use my word that's going to go out, my body is going to do yes. And so the power, and that's something that we are not taught. Like as a child, I was not taught to be like, your word is so powerful because you are emitting a frequency. And when you are telling your truth, and everyone's truth is different, so there is nobody is right or wrong again. It's just if you're aligned with yourself and that truth is your truth that you truly feel, you are going to start changing. And like with music here is okay. I love music, and reggaeton is something that it can be used for good or for bad, or any type of music.
All right.
And right now, when I came here, I started listening to the lyrics, and you hear the words say, "Tú eres una puta." puta, tú eres una perra, which means you're a bitch or you're a
Right.
whore. You're perra is like term for uh,
Yeah.
female dog in heat. But
Okay.
and then you see the women sing to that. They are just agreeing with those words. They are
Yeah.
agreeing with the frequency, and so it's easier for them to act upon the frequency. And then that's I believe like why prostitution is such a huge problem is because that music is creating a resonance in the community, in the girls, in the females, and they are just reacting to a frequency. It's again, it's all frequency, it's all energy, and we're mostly made out of water. And I don't know too much about it, but maybe you do. Our eardrums. There's water there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the reason why
Or
they're
fluid. I'm not sure it's water. There's fluid in our.
fluid. Thank you. The reason why there is fluid there, one of the reasons is so that we can hear the vibrations that are happening, and then so that we can take it in. How come people? Have you ever played that game with like broken telephone? I think it's called
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in a circle, and one person hears something, the other person hears something different, and then by the end, it's like completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's because what we hear is not that we didn't hear correctly. It's just what we hear is different because of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why in arguments, in couples arguments, it's like you're not lying. It just what you said was not heard by this person because this person is hearing something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so the time again when we have to have a moment of silence, of truly listening to the other person, mirroring back what that person is saying to correct you if you're not hearing correctly, those arguments can start being different because we want to be heard, we want to be seen. So again, that's the power of our voice. That's the like we have so much power. Back in the day, as humans, that used to be our contract. We used to be, I give you my word,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can trust that person. But somewhere along the line in history, that power of our word started going down. And so we started creating contracts written down by paper. And so I think if we start changing that conversation again, like you can trust me and like I give you my word and my word is everything to me. Like again, we can start changing those frequencies again. Doesn't mean that we're not gonna change the contracts because at the end of the day you can't trust everyone. But at least we can start feeling good about who we are because I know I can trust my voice and I know I got this. Isn't it our saying like in the beginning there was a voice?
It was the word, yeah, and the word was made flesh. It also comes back to, I love this conversation as it relates to the Judeo Christian story of Moses and the Ten Commandments when he meets God and he says, uh, I am that I am, right? And so like this guy Joseph Rodriguez, he breaks this down so well in some of his videos, but this idea of okay, there is no God other than I am that I am. Okay, so what the fuck does that mean? Let's unpack that a little bit. Well, if I am that I am is I am what I proclaim myself to be. And the only way that we can take God's name in vain, so to speak, is to speak of ourselves in a limited way because God is unlimited. And like when I started thinking about that, I was just like, and then that goes back to the power of the word and the conversations that we're having with ourselves. We are the gods. We are in this weird, wonderful way creating our reality with our thoughts, our words.
Yeah. Yes. Is it okay if I share a little story?
Please do, please.
And I wish I can give credit to who told me this story, but I know it was an elder. I know who the elder was. I don't remember. So I just want to put that out there. This story doesn't come from me. This elder said, in the beginning there was God, and God created everything. Created the world, created the plants, created different universes. And he got to the point where God got so bored that and he created Maya. And Maya means illusion. And so when God created Maya, Maya was like, hey, God, do you want to play a game? God was like, yeah. So okay. Give me a pair of scissors. So, okay. Maya took God and cut God into little particles and just went and said, now go find yourself. And it just spread God particles, which is all of us. Goes back to what you were saying. It is all of us. And why is the reason that sometimes you meet somebody, you're like, I met you before.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know whether you met this person. I always believe that who you are meeting in that moment and who you are recognizing is that God particle that all of us carry. And I am that I am is that God particle. The power of the word of like, I am broke, I am shitty, I am horrible, or I am powerful, I am rich, I am healthy, I am kind, I am truth. And when you start resonating with those frequencies, then you become that. So it's a beautiful story that I'm like, yes, that is a way for me that feels good to be like, you are God and I am God, because I carry that particle that it is God.
Mm-hmm. And
And
and that is like that particle is where this mystery all came from. So it's incredible, man. I mean, it is magic. It is miraculous. We live in this experience that the more aware we become of our ability to directly engage in it, then the more capable we could become of that. And it's so fascinating to me how these, incremental levels of increased awareness that open up ability to engage in different ways. I don't know. It's just forever fascinating. I've been kind of revisiting um, the double slit experiment, right,
mm,
where it was understood that light functions as both wave and
mhm,
particle, and really like thinking about that in my reality and how as difficult as it can be to really tangibly get a hold of, but that like I am describing everything around me, and that's why it is what it is.
mm,
And in these conversations, we're having an agreement on our
mm,
description of this experience, and within our psychedelic community, we've been talking a lot about how we can come to agreement on the world as we see it. Because right now we're coming and there's a lot of agreement about how fucked up the world is, right?
yeah.
But that's not the only story. It's
Mm,
perhaps an even smaller part of the actual story. Perhaps the bigger story, the bigger truth, is that everything is fucking beautiful.
mm. Wow.
Everything that you think is so ugly. I mean, that's why I fell in love with mushrooms and snakes. I got two big boa constrictors here in my room with me right now, and I've always been into the kind of weird, ugly stuff, spiders and stuff, because like I understood somehow intrinsically early on that with knowledge, everything can become beautiful.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for bringing it into this space right now. You're touching on something that is deep for me because it is attached to my relationship with my partner. And that's something that we have been dealing with. It's like we've been together for 6 years, and a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves is that we lived a really hard life. But when we look at the pictures, when we go back to the memories that we had an incredible life. We had incredible experiences. And we went to Lake Willoughby in Vermont, and we did psilocybin, we did mushrooms. And the conversation and the idea of that our relationship was, it was beautiful, but it was also hard, started changing because we started experiencing the beauty in the moment, but also the beauty that we have lived together as a couple. And we started relating to our relationship in a different way. We started relating to each other in a different way. And it goes back to, yes, there is absolutely, you're so right. There's so much beauty in this world all around us. If we, okay, like the movie Soul, it's a Disney movie, and it talks about that. It talks about how we go through this world so fast, moving so fast, that we don't pay attention to what's really being given to us. The present, and you probably heard this, the present that we live, it is a present. When we are fully present in the moment, we are able to receive the gift of God, of life. And this movie touched about that. It's like this little soul goes into this person's body and starts experiencing life as if you were just born. And if you look at kids, they're just like, their eyes are always wondering. Their eyes are always like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? And then when the soul went out and the original soul went back into that body, the memories were still there from the newer soul. And he started getting these memories of just being in the present moment. And he fell in love with life once again. He fell in love with just slowing down and being like, oh my God, life is so beautiful as a seed falling from a tree. Because it's magic. That seed had to wait years to fall at the right time, which is for you to be there and to fall into your hand. Everything, I mean, it's timeless, but it's also like everything is perfect. Everything happens for a reason. Even what's happening right now between us, like this is, we had to, and as I think you said something in the beginning, which was you changed the name of your podcast. And I also had to do my work to be able to have a conversation with you today. And you just had to wait for that to happen. Pain, I believe that is pain. Pain can be one of the biggest catalysts that we have as human beings. For me, and why I say that is because, for example, when my mother almost passed away in the hospital, the pain that I felt in that moment was huge. What it reminded me of was, remember to live and to love life and the people that are around you. And don't waste time, because life can disappear. And the people that are around you can also go away. So don't wait to tell somebody that you love them. Don't wait to do the things that you love, because you might not have the health or the time. No, you always have the time, but you might not have the health. So do the things that you want to do, that make you happy, that you are inspired to do them. because there'll come a time where your body's just not there anymore. And then again, that's going to create a little bit of sadness in your heart. And you don't have to do everything in this world, and that's okay. And going back to what I said before, was the pain for me has been a huge catalyst. The reason for my change right now that I'm going through is because of pain. The pain that I am feeling. We can either look at pain as something so bad that we move away from it, or we can see pain as an energy that can help us move to where we need to go. And I hear all the stories of incredible humans that have used pain as change. And they use pain for that. They use pain to change it. And so it's not that we cannot use pain because it's horrible, but maybe we can learn from the people that have used pain and that have created change in this world. Like if they did it, and that goes back into one of the laws of the universe, law of oneness. If they were able to get through that pain, then I can do it too. And use them as an inspiration. And then you'll become that inspiration for yourself, and then you can become that inspiration for others. Yeah, I think even that what's happening here with the internet lagging and not being able to hear you, I think that's part of being human. That's part of like what makes us human. Is like we're not perfect. Nothing's perfect. Technology is not perfect, and just being okay with with things like this, so that because all of us we try to live in a world that is too perfect, and we hide part of ourselves. But how do we relate to each other is through the pain, through the uncomfortable, and through the beauty, yes. But when somebody's like, "Oh wait, you also go through that? Oh my God, okay, I see. Okay, I feel so much better now." And so let us not forget that none of us are perfect, and there's no such thing as perfection. But when we allow things like this to be okay, okay, we'll just adjust. I think that's what makes it perfect in a way, and it's a paradox. Yeah, I love this. We're like reading each other's questions and comments as we have to answer. And that goes back into silence, um, and what silence does for us. Uh, yeah. So right now, my Instagram page is at Raven Maite. It's all one word, and Maite is spelled Mayte. I have a LinkedIn profile, which is where you found me too. Same name, and as well, I have a Facebook page as well. Raven Maite. That's where people find me. Um, and yeah, oh, thank you, thank you so much, Eric, for this incredible opportunity. Um, and yeah, to have met you in this time. You're doing incredible work, Eric, and I'm excited to hear more of your podcast too.